In this short video I'm going to show you how to integrate Incognito with Sonar, and on the screen right now you can see the Incognito Broadband Command Center, and specifically what we're going to be using for this integration is their MPS module. And what Sonar is going to do is create or update subscribers in here, as well as creating or updating devices, namely cable modems, and then associating different client classes with them based on the address lists in Sonar. So you can see right now we don't have any devices. I'm doing some searches here and we don't have any subscribers. So by the end of this video we'll get a subscriber created in here with a device, and I'll show you how the client classes can be changed based on the address lists. So the first thing we need to do is set up the DOCSIS integration, and that's under Network and then Provisioning and DOCSIS Integration. We would pick the provisioning system we're using here. Since this video is about Incognito, that's the one we have selected. Want to make sure it's enabled. And then we need the whole URL to the Incognito API. So the default port is 8996, but if you're port forwarding or if you've changed the API port, you may need to update that here. It's going to be HTTP or HTTPS depending on if you're using HTTPS for the SOAP API. And then we need the IP or host name here. So you do need to enter the whole thing here, the protocol, the IP or host name, and then the port, and again the default is 8996. And then we need a username and password. Once that's all done, we can just click Validate Credentials up here to make sure they work, and they do. So the only other piece we need to do here is go to Inventory Models to Provision, and we're going to pick the inventory models that represent cable modems in our Sonar installation. So what'll be listed here is any device that has a MAC address field on it. And so I only have one here right now, and if we jump over into the inventory system quickly, we can just take a look at that. I have that one device here. If I edit it, I have a single MAC address field called test. So for these to show up, we do need to have a MAC address field, since that's what's used by the Incognito system to identify the modems. We need to have valid MAC addresses in there. If we jump back over to our DOCSIS integration quick, you can just see that is the one I have checked here. So you may have multiple inventory models that you use that represent cable modems. You just want to make sure you check them all here. And as an aside, when you do check or uncheck modems here and save this, it will not go to Incognito and make any changes immediately. It will only begin changing things as modems need to be provisioned. So that's really all the setup we have here. If Validate Credentials works, you're good to go. So we're going to jump over to my account here I have called Incognito Test, and I'm going to show you how this works. So if we pull this up again, you'll see here right now I don't have any subscribers and I don't have any devices. So what we're going to do is on this subscriber, I'm going to go to my inventory and I'm going to add one of those cable modems that I have. So I'm going to add this one that's ABF. And as I add that cable modem to my account, if we now jump back into here and first take a look in subscribers, you'll see that account's been automatically created. We've pulled over the account ID from Sonar, we have the name, and there's always a description added to show you that it was created by Sonar. If we go to devices, you'll also see that cable modem's here, and we have a couple of services associated with it. And so these are those client classes that you would set up in Incognito, and you'll need to have some understanding of how Incognito works in order to make this all work, but the client classes are essentially a way for you to do some kind of policy and configuration on the modem. So they may set the speeds, they may set number of CPEs that can be attached, they may set whether the device can access the internet, and all kinds of different things. But these are the two we have assigned, and those are based on address lists and Sonar that I'll show you in a minute. So if we go back to the account and we take a look at billing, you'll see I have a service on here called Internet, and my account is active, and that's what's driving these two client classes here. This A.1.5M.1M is based on the Internet service, and Sonar Active is based on the account being active or not. So if we come in here and we flip this account to inactive, and I save that, then what's going to happen after a couple of seconds is that Sonar is going to connect to Incognito, and you'll see that now that Sonar Active client class has been removed. So if that's what's defining whether or not this device is allowed online, then that's a very easy thing for you to be able to do, to only allow active accounts to use this cable modem. So if I come back in here and I flip that back to active, then you'll see that that reappears in here. So let's jump in our inventory and let's add another cable modem. So I'm going to add another one here quickly. Now we have two. And if I jump back in here, you'll see we now have two modems. Now, the one thing to note with this is that Sonar does allow you to have multiple data services on an account at any one time, and the way that we normally map a data service to a device is that the data service is mapped to an IP assignment, and then that IP assignment is mapped to a device, and then that's how we join those across. The problem here is we have a bit of a chicken and egg problem with a cable modem. The IP assignment often or typically is not going to be assigned in a valid way until it's provisioned in Incognito, and we don't know what the IP address is at that point, so we need to get the configs into here. So what Sonar does is it'll grab every data service on the account and associate any client classes that are valid for that data service. So really, if you're using this provisioning system, it's just one thing to be aware of. You really don't want to have multiple data services on a single account when you're using this system. If you do have a customer who has multiple data services, you're really going to want to have independent accounts for each service, and you can use the master and sub-account functionality to join those together. So the way these client classes are defined in Sonar is the same way that we do everything. Under address lists, we can build address lists to define what the client class name is and what the criteria are, and this works just the same way as it would on an inline device. If we take a look at this client class, I've said they have to have an internet service and there's no other requirement. And if we take a look at the Sonar active address list, then the only requirement here is that the accounts have an active status. So we could create a single client class that aggregated together all the requirements. So I could say the account has to be active, it can't be delinquent, and it has to have this service. Or we can stack them, which is what I'm doing here, where they get one client class for the speed and they get one client class for being active, and we could have another one if they're delinquent or not delinquent or whatever the case may be. Take a look at the earlier address list videos we have if you have any concerns or questions on that. But using these features together makes it really easy for you to get these cable modems provisioned, and we're going to be adding other DOCSIS integrations in the future with other systems as well, so keep an eye out for those.